ignored all the warnings and ploughed ahead with an unprecedented borrowing spree, leaving all of us more vulnerable. Now we have businesses saying they will raise prices to cover his jobs tax. We have an energy policy that will drive up bills.
In the budget to get our finances back in order.
Brace yourself for today's explosive showdown. A ferocious row erupts as Keir Starmer is caught red-handed, accused of lying and publicly shamed at PMQ. In today's video, we'll be discussing the fiery exchanges that unfolded, the fallout from this heated clash, and how it ties into the wider political implosion gripping the government. This is one you won't want to miss.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With almost 4.5 million entries and exits in the last year, Maidenhead train station is a busy transport hub. But with crowded gate lines, flooded underpasses and a drop-off facility that isn't fit for purpose, the station needs major upgrades to give Maidenhead commuters what they deserve. So does the Prime Minister understand how Maidenhead residents face at the station, and will he commit his government to fixing these issues in this government?
Hey, quick favour before we move on. If you find this political content interesting, go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel. Most of you watch without subscribing, and it's free, but it helps us out so much. Have you done it yet? Thanks a ton for the support. Now, let's get back to the video.
But contrast that with the party opposite. They weren't brave enough in government to take those difficult decisions. They've opposed all of our measures to stabilise the economy and promote growth. They're back to the magic money tree. She wants all the benefits of the budget, but she can't say how she's going to pay for them.
The session kicked off with the Prime Minister delivering a blistering critique of Keir Starmer's record, accusing him of prioritising criminals over law-abiding citizens. Pointing to Starmer's controversial voting history, the Prime Minister highlighted his opposition to tougher measures on illegal immigration and his defence of polarising figures such as Shamima Begum. These accusations echoed long-standing concerns from critics who question Labour's commitment to national security.
Mr. Speaker, on Friday, while borrowing costs hit levels not seen since Labour was last in government, I met business owners and their employees in Chesterfield. One of them told me that his business will not exist in 4 years' time because of this government's policies. It might not even exist next year. The Prime Minister may try to blame his inheritance or blame global factors, but why should anyone trust a word he says over the businesses who are saying again and again that his budget means fewer jobs, lower growth and higher borrowing costs?
Starmer sought to shield himself by highlighting his tenure as Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, emphasising his role in prosecuting high-profile criminals. However, his defence struggled to land amidst the Prime Minister's sharp and calculated attacks, portraying Starmer as disconnected from the concerns of everyday Britons. The heated exchanges set the stage for a tense and fiery session, with both leaders locking horns over policy, credibility and public trust.
Well, the OBR found no such black hole. And he talks about a budget 3 years ago. The borrowing costs last week are at a 27-year high for 30-year gilts. The Chancellor is apparently promising to be ruthless in reducing spending.
Starmer's leadership was dealt another blow with the resignation of MP Tulip Siddiq amid an ongoing corruption probe. The scandal, tied to alleged links with overseas political controversies, has further tarnished Labour's image and raised serious questions about the party's integrity. Critics were quick to point out Starmer's evasive responses and failure to address the issue head-on, fueling concerns about a deepening leadership crisis under his watch.
That yesterday he said he was saddened that his close friend resigned. This was an anti-corruption minister under criminal investigation for corruption. Mohammed Yunus, the Nobel Prize winner advising Bangladesh, said London properties gifted to the former city minister may be proceeds of robbery.
This resignation couldn't have come at a more critical moment for Labour. As the party strives to position itself as a government in wait, even the slightest hint of scandal risks eroding its credibility. The Prime Minister wasted no time seizing on the controversy, using it to cast doubt on Starmer's ability to lead a clean and competent government, further intensifying the pressure on Labour's leadership.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claims he has full confidence in the Chancellor, but the markets clearly do not. Yesterday, the Chancellor repeated her promise to have just one budget per year to provide businesses with certainty. The talk in the city is that she can't meet her fiscal rules, and there will need to be an emergency budget.
For Starmer, the stakes have never been higher. Each evasive remark and half-hearted response further erodes public trust, painting a troubling picture of his leadership. Critics argue that his mishandling of Siddique's resignation and his failure to provide clear answers reflect a deeper inability to navigate crises effectively. This growing perception threatens to alienate both loyal Labour supporters and undecided voters, leaving the party exposed to even greater scrutiny and political damage.
May be proceeds of robbery. So, will the Prime Minister offer Bangladesh the full support of our National Crime Agency in ensuring that any properties bought with stolen funds are properly investigated?
Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister, on the other hand, seized the moment to present his government as decisive and steadfast, positioning himself as a leader focused on addressing the nation's challenges. While this narrative resonated with his base, it did little to address widespread public dissatisfaction with the government's handling of economic policies, leaving many unconvinced by the rhetoric.
Why does the Prime Minister think British people should pay to surrender something that is already ours?
Adding fuel to the fire was the contentious debate over the Chagos archipelago. Starmer's decision to support ceding control of the disputed territory to Mauritius has drawn widespread backlash. The Prime Minister wasted no time framing the move as a betrayal of British interests, accusing Starmer of favouring compromise over protecting national sovereignty.
To be ruthless in reducing spending. Let me suggest something that he should cut. There is no way that we should be giving up British territory in Chagos. He is rushing a deal which will be disastrous and which will land taxpayers with a multi-billion-pound bill.
The debate over the Chagos archipelago has amplified broader concerns about Labour's foreign policy direction. Critics contend that Starmer's willingness to cede control signals a troubling lack of strategic foresight, potentially undermining Britain's position on the global stage. For many, this controversy encapsulates lingering doubts about Labour's capability to tackle complex international challenges, raising questions about the party's readiness to lead on matters of national and global significance.
With the Shadow Foreign Secretary, who breached the ministerial code, her predecessor Batu ignored it. It was the advisor that then had to resign because he wasn't taken seriously. And she's now serving the leader of the opposition. What a contrast. Thank God the British public chucked them out.
The opposition's proposed budget took centre stage at today's PMQs, drawing sharp criticism for its tax hikes and increased borrowing. Businesses and citizens alike have voiced concerns, warning that the measures could trigger an economic downturn. Critics argue that higher taxes will pressure businesses to raise prices, further exacerbating the cost of living crisis and leaving households struggling to make ends meet.
Mr. Speaker, we inherited a situation where the long-term operation of a vital military base was under threat because of legal challenges. The negotiations were started under the last government. The then Foreign Secretary came to this House to say why he was starting negotiations and what he wanted to achieve.
The Prime Minister capitalised on these concerns, accusing Labour of economic recklessness and warning that their proposals would flatline the economy, plunging the country into deeper financial turmoil. Starmer attempted to defend Labour's economic vision, highlighting plans for growth and investment.
It's been taxes up, borrowing up, mortgage rates up, and that's not all. Business confidence is down, jobs are down, growth is down. Can the country afford 4 more years of his terrible judgments?
Mr. Speaker, among that barrage of complete nonsense,
As the session unfolded, it became evident that Starmer was losing his grip on the narrative. Every effort to deflect criticism was swiftly countered with renewed attacks, further undermining his credibility. Political observers were quick to point out that Starmer's performance today represented a significant low in his leadership, fueling doubts about his capacity to steer Labour effectively into the next general election.
Mr. Speaker, there is no one he can blame for this dud deal except himself. At the budget, Labour were congratulating themselves for having the first female Chancellor, instead of ensuring the country had someone actually qualified to do the job.
The Prime Minister, energised by the opposition's missteps, intensified his criticisms, portraying Labour as disconnected from the everyday concerns of ordinary Britons. While this narrative bolstered his position, it also highlighted the high stakes for both parties as they battled to win public trust and shape the political landscape ahead of the next general election. The controversies surrounding Sir Keir Starmer at today's Prime Minister's Questions, PMQs, placed his leadership under intense scrutiny. As the opposition leader, Starmer grappled with mounting challenges, including defending his policies and responding to allegations within his party. The tension in Parliament mirrored a growing unease among MPs, voters and political analysts, raising critical questions about his ability to steer Labour through this turbulent period.
That saying she'd crashed the economy was damaging her reputation. It was actually crashing the economy that damaged her reputation.
Critics suggest that Starmer's leadership of Labour is increasingly under scrutiny. His approach to key issues, including the resignation of Tulip Siddiq, Labour's controversial budget proposals, and the Chagos Archipelago deal, has raised doubts about his ability to handle the complexities of modern politics. Each perceived misstep reinforces a growing narrative of disconnection, with opponents seizing the opportunity to brand his leadership as out of touch with the needs and concerns of ordinary Britain. For Labour, a party striving to reposition itself as a credible alternative to the Conservatives, these leadership struggles could not come at a more critical juncture. Starmer's apparent hesitation to take firm stances on pressing issues has heightened the perception of weakness within his leadership. Critics contend that effective leadership demands more than just presenting policies. It requires the conviction and resilience to defend them under intense scrutiny.
All they've got is complaining, no defence for their sorry record, they don't even acknowledge it. No ideas, no policy. They're like a blank piece of paper, blowing hopelessly in the wind. No wonder the country put them in the bin.
The implications of Starmer's leadership challenges extend well beyond the walls of Parliament. As voters begin to consider their options for the next general election, his perceived inability to confront controversies directly risks undermining confidence in Labour's ability to govern. For many, the concern goes beyond policy. It's about whether Starmer possesses the strength and vision to unite a divided nation and navigate the turbulent times ahead.
The Employment Rights Bill is urgently needed, especially given the exploitation of gig workers, like those retail assistants employed through apps, with vital rights denied and staff being charged a premium should they want to be paid on time. Insecure work denies workers their rights, but the TUC has also said it costs the economy around £10 billion a year. So will the Prime Minister agree with me that having a single status of worker will help end such abusive practices, give workers security and significantly benefit the economy?
If Starmer is to navigate these challenges successfully, he must exhibit stronger leadership, one that embodies clarity, decisiveness and a compelling vision for the future. Without these qualities, Labour risks remaining overshadowed by its rivals, and Starmer may find himself increasingly unable to counter the mounting discontent, both within his party and among the electorate.
Thank you for raising this, and I'm deeply sorry for those receiving inadequate care in his constituency. The last government left the NHS in a critical condition, but you can't deliver growth with record waiting lists, 2.8 economically inactive. Our plan for change, investing in the NHS, diagnostic centres, and I will of course consider his invitation.
Today's PMQs laid bare the fragility of Labour's position under Starmer's leadership. Scandals, economic controversies and policy blunders have taken centre stage, casting doubt on the party's ability to reclaim public trust. The burning question now is whether Starmer can overcome these mounting challenges and reassert his authority, or if today's heated exchanges signal the start of a downward spiral for his leadership.
Patients in Kent are experiencing a winter crisis resulting from years of underinvestment in our NHS. Many are having to be treated on trolleys in corridors with cases of winter flu and other viruses, providing a significant challenge to local health services. What assurance can the Prime Minister offer my residents in Dartford that the reforms and extra investment set out by the Secretary of State for Health will make this inadequate care a thing of the past, and would he visit Darrant Valley Hospital in Dartford with me?
For the Prime Minister, today's session served as a platform to position himself as a stable leader in uncertain times. Yet, the simmering discontent among voters highlights a broader challenge for both parties. With trust in leadership waning across the board, it's clear that significant work lies ahead for anyone hoping to secure public confidence and electoral support.
For those receiving inadequate care in his constituency. The last government left the NHS in a critical condition. But you can't deliver growth with record waiting lists, 2.8 economically inactive. Our plan for change, investing in the NHS, diagnostic centres, and I will of course consider his invitation.
The explosive session at PMQs today underscored the deep fractures within British politics. For Starmer, the path forward is unmistakable. He must restore trust, tackle scandals directly, and articulate a clear and inspiring vision for the future. Without decisive action, he risks not only his leadership, but also Labour's chances of securing victory in the next general election. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister faces the delicate task of balancing confidence with humility, ensuring his government's policies align with public sentiment. As the political landscape shifts, one thing is clear: the stakes have never been higher for both leaders, with their ability to navigate these challenges likely to shape the nation's future. Let us know what your thoughts are concerning this developing story in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Watch more videos here for the latest insights.